This is a STEARsoft tutorial on hosted cloud servers. It's a quick start for administrators. So once your server has been set up for you, you'll receive an email. In the email, the key information is the web address of your new server. So let's copy that, Control-C, and paste it into a browser, Control-V. So my account username is picked up from that link, but I need the activation code, which is also in the email. So there's my account activation code. Control-C to copy again, Control-V, and I need to put my new password in. So I've got to choose a password. There we go. Set that. Continue. And I now need to log in with that password. There we go. Because two-factor login has been set up, that's now going to generate a PIN code. There it is, 744. It's been sent to my phone, 744086. Enter that. And I'm going to always trust this device. If I was on a public computer, I might not do that. Continue. Right, so I've logged in. It's basically a teacher account with administrative privileges attached. So it's gone into my teacher area. I have no classes, there's no data set up yet, so we're going to leave this area. The way to leave the teacher area is this little tiny cross up here. You wouldn't normally want to do this unless you were an administrator, but this little tiny cross up here takes you back to the main welcome page. Now in your email there was also a link to your main page here. So this is the link that you'll probably put on your school site for teachers to use to get to, or that you might bookmark. So you can then go in as teacher or as administrator, which we'll do in a minute, and there's other things here as well. So let's log in as administrator and get started. So we have already logged in, so if I press OK, it will take me straight there. So there is an exit page here. Well, so I can exit back to here. I can go in as teacher. I can exit with a little cross. So this is the main page. I'm logged in, and whilst I'm logged in, I can easily go between administrator things and teacher things. If I want to log out, then there is a log out button, and that will log you out properly, requiring a password to continue. So we've got to set up some things. So for first use, there are some basic things to set up. So first of all, you can read this bit here. This is the date that all students and classes will automatically progress up an academic year. So it wants to be at the end of your academic year, not right at the beginning of September. If it's the UK, you would probably be beginning of August, give you time to set new things up ready for the new year, with it looking like it's going to be. Save those settings. There is an option to upload data. This is the remote upload feature. A separate little box would be installed at your school and would provide a secure means using key encryption to upload data from your own database on a regular basis, daily basis, to the STEARsoft cloud server. So if you are wanting to use that, you need to get in touch and we can help set that up with you. There is an extra charge for that, but it enables STEARsoft to always automatically reflect the data for class lists, student details, or teachers as well, from your own database that you already have at school. Anyway, we're not going to do that. We're going to do a more simple situation here where we basically just enter the data we need. It's not a huge amount, so that's what we'll do here, and that's what a lot of schools will be doing. So let's skip this step. So we need to define the days of the week. So if I had on the previous stage done the remote upload, I would do that process and then the days of the week and all this information that we're about to put in would have been automatically uploaded, and you could have grabbed from your database from your school through that system. Anyway, this is a 1 week timetable or a 2 week timetable, normal Monday to Friday. Other options, or you can go completely flexible, expand this if necessary. You can go for 3 week options or whatever it might be. So pretty flexible. Let's go back and just choose a normal Monday to Friday. Tip here says don't include break and lunch times, just the lessons where attendance is going to be taken. It keeps screens with, like your timetable screen, nice and slick and neat and tidy and looking and taking minimal space. Let's look at the example. So down here there's some buttons. If we put an example in, that's the sort of information we want to be putting in. Also, short names for the attendance sessions. I like AM and PM for morning and afternoon registration. These are going to appear in timetables on your attendance sheets. So they need to be nice and small codes that are easily recognizable but don't take up space. Let's save that. You can obviously set up whatever is appropriate for your school. Let's put an example of these. So if you've got a house system, you can attach houses to students. Same forms. I mean, they're just names really. It doesn't have to be houses or forms, but that's what these are called. They're optional as well, so you can skip that. Then what have we got? Right, you can read this when you get here, but basically we'd recommend setting up a central student list area. So you have just one central list of student data, and then that gets propagated out to all the teacher accounts, so that if there are errors or changes, you change it in the one place and then it gets propagated out to all your teachers. Right, here, with the move to the cloud system we've got here, we've got a particular eye on GDPR in the UK and data, looking after your data carefully and data protection. So one of the features of STEARsoft is being able to synchronize with iPhone or iPad or iPod Touch. I mean, you can use the web version directly on a mobile device and it will work over, because it's a global internet address, it will work through your school network or over the phone. So if you're away on a trip, you can still access your attendance data over a data network. But if you've got an iPhone, you can get the app which synchronizes with STEARsoft. So it's a little bit slicker, I guess, and it means that if you're completely out of data range and you've got no phone signal or internet connection, you've got a local copy of your data. So this is teacher-centric data on a particular device. It will be for that teacher. It will only be their class lists, only their attendance data. It's not got all the extra sensitive information that relates to your whole school database. So it's a little relevant pocket of data that sits on a mobile device. But you don't really want that data being propagated beyond that device. Okay, you've already got the data on your STEARsoft server. You're already synchronizing that device with the STEARsoft server, so doing further backups to the Apple iCloud or to a computer that it might synchronize with, or using an email manual backup, that's not necessary. And actually, in fact, you don't really want that, because that's then just duplicating data into places that's then you're losing control of. So we'd recommend ticking that to restrict your phone basically to stop mobile devices backing up the data even further than having it on their device. The other thing about mobile devices is if they stop being used, you really want the data to be deleted off them. And this ticking this will mean that the data will be automatically deleted after the period set here. So currently 30 days. So if the device is not synchronized with STEARsoft for 30 days, then the data stored on it for STEARsoft will automatically be deleted next time that application becomes active. So before it can be used, the data will be zapped. Right. By ticking this box up here, some options were ticked here. You can tick more of them, basically restricting teachers from adding and changing information so that they would tell you about it and you change it once in the central location, and then it will go out to all teachers and keep all your data nice and consistent. Let's save that and let's move on. This allows you to do some other customizations. Let's tick our suggestion. One thing that's worth saying here, this comes from when STEARsoft's been around since 2015, so that's a fair while. And in the past, it's always been running as a server at the school. So it's typically been run in a secure area where only staff can get to it anyway, and it's not been open to the whole web. So this was more appropriate there, where teachers could go in and click a button to say, oh, send me an automatic email to give me my activation code. Well, that's still the case, but you have to be logged in. So if you need an activation code, you probably can't log in to do that. But you can get another teacher to log in, and then they can click the button. So teacher 1 could log in and then press the button to say, oh, send an activation code to teacher 2. You don't have to have this, but if you do have it, it enables teachers to help each other rather than always having to come to you. So they can just say to the teacher that they might be, oh, can you quickly reset my password for me? And another teacher can do that. It doesn't lock the teacher 2 account, so teacher 1 resetting teacher 2 password or sending an account activation code. It doesn't disable the teacher 2 account like it would if you're an administrator and wanting to set that up. It just sends an account activation code to enable teacher 2 to start again with that if they have been locked out. But if they do it by mistake, it's not going to muck up what teacher 2 is doing, and that activation code will then time out and it won't be an issue. So we'd recommend ticking those, let teachers help themselves a little bit, and let power teachers help as well. Power teachers, like you're an administrator, which means you've got access to all these setting up overall privilege things. And then there are normal teachers, and power teachers have some extra abilities. So they are able to administer the central student list. They can set up statistical meaning of codes. They can add term dates. So they can do some of the sort of normal things without setting up the structure and administering user accounts. So that's what power teachers are, and this allows them to do some extra things with regard to passwords and synchronized devices. That's the other little thing talked about on the previous screen, synchronizing a mobile device. Only one device can be synchronized to a particular teacher account to keep data nice and tight, not get things out of control, and it basically means that that synchronization process can be super efficient because we know which device it is, and keeps it simple and quick and efficient. So anyway, if a device changes, you need to release the currently synchronized device so that you can associate a new one. If this is not ticked, teachers would have to come to you as the administrator to get their current synchronized device released so that they could then associate a new mobile device. Tick that and lets them press a button within their own account area to do that themselves. Disallowing code letters. Right, part of the way attendance works in STEARsoft is that you have a separate attendance state, which can be blank, i.e. nothing's been set yet, or it can be present or absent or late or no session. There's also an optional early leaving option, so that's when someone leaves the session early rather than arriving late. Anyway, there are then codes that are independent that go alongside each of those attendance states. So for instance, you've marked someone absent, they are just appearing absent, no code. You then, once you find out why they're absent, perhaps they were ill, you then put in the I code and add that code to that session. You can, because they're independent, you can put those codes in advance. So you could put an H code in advance. You know someone's going to be on holiday. That will be H, and there'd be no attendance date recorded, just a code letter, H. When you get to that date, oh, they're not here, absent, and the H code is already there, ready, and you'll see how that works. Anyway, because late is a particular attendance state rather than just a code, in the way STEARsoft works, it does some clever things with that. You don't want teachers to be assigning the code L. You want them to be changing the state to say that the student arrived late instead. So L is not a code letter that you want to be using, so we'd recommend disallowing that. If there are other codes that you don't want teachers to be using, you can just list them here, just add them in. Right, these, you can read this. It basically allows you to embed other web information within the pages. So if you have a web-based information system at your school, you could embed extra information or links to that information from the class or student pages in STEARsoft. Anyway, let's save those options. Now ready to add some teacher accounts. So adding teacher accounts, we only want the minimal information. Good practice is to just include the data that we need, not all the extra information. You've got that extra information somewhere else. You can access it somewhere else if you need it. So copies and pastes particularly nicely from spreadsheets, but it can come from a CSV file, or you can just put it in just normal plain text. Anyway, here is some data. Personal data, ideally you won't copy this across. Okay, ideally you'd not select that, but if you did, it's not an issue. When we copy and paste it, it's over a secure HTTPS connection. So let's paste that in and see what's going on. So in this screen, I'm going to say what I'm including and what I'm excluding. So all rows by default are included, but I don't want that top row because those are my headings. So let's exclude that. That's not my actual data. Right, the columns you need a username. So let's say that we're going to use a username. And you need an email address. You can sort of work without an email address, but email address makes everything work so much easier. We'd strongly recommend you have that. So email address as well. So we need username, email address, and then optionally a name. So the name is just something to personalize in a more friendly way, information in various places and emails that users receive. They could be in separate columns and you could concatenate them together, so that allows you to do things here, but let's just put that as name. And I'm going to exclude all the personal details that really shouldn't be in this system. So next, just review what's happened. It's correctly put things in. That looks good. And if we already had teacher data, it would try and merge things that it recognized were matching existing usernames, and there'd be different options here. But for this first use, everything is just creating new data, creating new users with the data that's been provided. Finish. Okay. Next thing is to set up passwords and security. So there are some options that will have been set up here. It might be the same as what you see in this tutorial. It might be slightly different. Anyway, you should review this and make sure that this fits your needs and wants. As I said, this comes from a time where this would work as a server on a school network. So passwords were kind of optional. Really, they shouldn't be. You should just tick this. Password should be required. Once someone has a password, it needs to be used, but initially they could be blank. Right, restrictions, pretty self-evident. We'd suggest putting some restrictions there. You can maybe force people to put these things in as well if you really want to. Two-factor login, right. The two-factor login eventually expires and people have to redo their second-factor login if it's enabled. Okay, that you cannot enable two-factor login, of course. And this tells you how long the two-factor lasts for. 60 days, you can change that. Then there's this random extra days. Now this isn't necessary, but it's a good idea. Particularly in a school, everyone's going to be probably setting up their account at the beginning of the year, 1st of September or something. All get started, all log in. And then 60 days later, everyone's two-factor login expires. Everyone's going to suddenly need to be doing that again. Now, you never know what happens in the real world. It could be on that particular day. Maybe email is down. Who knows what might be happening. If there is an issue, do you want the whole school having to troubleshoot the whole school? Well, if you put this, then it spreads the expiry over the next 30 days in a random way, so that basically you're not going to have all your teachers suddenly having their second factor expire all at the same time. So if there are any issues, it's not going to be everything all at once, and it makes your job of getting on top of that a little bit easier. Hopefully it's just a handful of people, and maybe the issue will either have sorted itself, or you know what to do and can sort it before the next handful happen. You can read that about that. And this one just duplicates what we saw on the previous screen, that allows teachers to help each other and reset each other's passwords. This is if you're doing the remote upload thing that I talked about right at the beginning. Let's save those changes. Continue. So this is me. I've already got my password set, but all the new users that we've just recently added have no password set. If I click on this, it will select all the ones with no password. Not me. I don't want to do all that for the moment. I'm just going to select the first one, and I'm going to send an account activation code email. Done. So they're going to get an email just like the email we got, only they'll have their own username, their own activation code, and as part of the link here they'll have their username, so it'll take them straight to the page to get them started. They'll put in their account code, give themselves a password, and off they go. And they've got the same information to give them a bookmark to put in, etc. Okay, so we're about there for the basics of getting started. Just one extra, well, let's have a look at other things we might to do. So this menu now, having gone through the wizard, if you like, to set up some basic things, this is now my side menu to get to various places. Made administrator page at the top. Tells me what my license is when it expires. If I log in here, that takes me straight to my logged in state on the STEARsoft website now. So this is now at the STEARsoft general customer area. So I can now post forum messages, get support, update my licenses, and then when I log out from here, it will take me straight back to my cloud server. Okay, so you can use that to jump in and then jump back and you get back to here. Right, so here are my users. That was me, I'm the administrator. Now, having set things up, it's set everyone up as a teacher, that's the default. We'll want some of those teachers not to be teachers but to be power teachers instead. So let's click on demo 1 and change their user group to be power teacher. It's also a good idea to not just have yourself as administrator. You might want a backup administrator person, just in case, I don't know, if you're not there and need to phone in sick and get someone to do something, they can log in as themselves, give someone else. So it's good practice to have more than one administrator to the system. So set up some power teachers, set up another administrator, and there we go. So just to talk you quickly through this side panel, this was about setting an upload system. This was all the setup that we've been through, and it also included that setup, the customize options and the data control locks down here as well. These are things that your power teachers can do as well, setting statistical meanings of code and doing term dates. One thing you will need to do, or not need to, but probably like to do, is setting up the descriptions of codes. Okay, you need to do this. It's an overall default. Teachers can then set up their own variations of it and override it if they like, but this would be good to do. This basically lets your teachers, gives a prompt and reminds them what the different code letters mean. So H is for holiday, for instance, and I is for illness, and M is for medical appointment, etc. Okay, and then those will appear as hints for what the code letters mean for the teachers. That's it really. There are other things, but that will get you started. We've set up the structure of the school. We've added some teachers. We've set some power teachers. We've secured the system. If you want to go and review that, manage passwords is where we secure all this stuff. And we've sent off emails to all the users so they've got ability to log in. If you need to set anything extra about a user or send an individual thing instead of going through the manage passwords, you can go to demo 2. I can just confirm resetting password and send that email automatically, so I can do that from here as well. Thank you for listening. I hope you find STEARsoft to be a useful tool. Please do give feedback on the forum, and if you get stuck, look on the forum, look in the user guide, look at the other tutorials, or post in the forum if none of that self-help works as well. Thank you for listening.